Hi students, today we are going to talk about traveling. Our lesson is 8.4. Let's answer these questions. Number 1. Would you rather visit Australia, Alaska or the Pacific coast? 2. Who would you choose as your traveling companion? Or would you prefer to travel alone? And 3. What are the pros and cons of traveling alone? Okay, once you have answered this, let's proceed with the text. Let's read and listen at the same time.
Track 27.
This week, Filmblog is bringing you 4 true stories about extraordinary people. Their stories don't always end happily, but their journeys will move and inspire you.
A.
Rabbit-proof fence.
In Australia in 1931, 3 Aboriginal girls ran away from their white captors and walked 2,400 kilometres to get back home. Their story is told in a film entitled Rabbit-Proof Fence. The Aboriginal Protection Act of 1869 gave the government powers over the lives of Aboriginal people, including the power to forcibly remove mixed-race children, those born to a white parent and a black parent, from their families. This story follows 3 little girls, Molly, 14, her sister, 8-year-old Daisy, and their 10-year-old cousin, Gracie, as they are taken from their family to a camp. Upset at being so far from their mothers and their home, the young girls escape and set off on an arduous journey to find their way home, pursued by the authorities. Molly remembered her father once telling her about the rabbit-proof fence which crosses Western Australia from north to south. Her goal was simple: to find the fence and follow it home. After 9 weeks of walking and hiding, they finally arrive home and are reunited with their family.
B.
Into the wild. The lonely death of Chris McCandless inspired a book, Into the Wild, and a film by the same name. Chris McCandless was a young American graduate who grew up in an affluent family in Washington, D.C. When he found out about his father's secret second family, he was so upset that he distanced himself from his family. He abandoned his real name and never contacted his parents or his sister again. After 2 years of hitchhiking around the Northwest, he decided to push himself to the extreme and hiked alone into the desolate wilderness of Alaska. He took pride in living simply and surviving with few belongings. He spent the next 16 weeks completely alone, hunting, reading, and camping in a deserted bus. In late July, it is thought that he ate some poisonous seeds that made him extremely ill and too weak to hunt for food. Realizing that he was going to die, Chris wrote a goodbye message, and a few weeks later some hunters found his body in the bus. This was his message: "I have had a happy life, and thank the Lord. Goodbye, and may God bless all."
C.
Tracks.
In early 1977, Robin Davidson set out with only 4 camels and her dog to walk 2,700 kilometres from the central Australian desert to the Indian Ocean off the western coast. 9 months later, ragged, blistered and burned black by the sun, she reached her destination. An Aboriginal man, Mr. Eddie, accompanied her for 3 weeks, while photographer Rich Smolin joined her 3 times during the journey. Davidson, now 65, is back in the limelight. The book of her journey, Tracks, has been reissued, and a film adaptation came out in 2013. Her route to the sea took her through remote regions and some of Australia's most inhospitable places. During 9 long, hard months, she battled scorching temperatures, rotten food, thirst, navigation errors, and injured camels. But far more challenging were the psychological aspects. At one point, Davidson found herself being swallowed by the vastness of the desert and losing all sense of self, space, and time. Despite that, she says, "I love the desert and its incomparable sense of space. I enjoy being with Aborigines and learning from them. I like the freedom inherent in being on my own, and I like the growth and learning processes that develop from taking chances."
D.
Wild. Cheryl Strayed's surname is not her original name. It's a name she invented for herself. After the death of her mother in 1991, Cheryl's grief caused her to lose her way in life. She felt she had strayed. Devastated by the loss of her mother to cancer, Cheryl turned to drugs. Then her husband divorced her, and finally she realized she had lost her own sense of identity. Cheryl decided to challenge herself by hiking along the Pacific Crest Trail in an attempt to find the person she used to be. This was not an easy task. The PCT runs for 1,100 miles through California from Mexico to Canada, and is certainly not a journey for novices. But Cheryl filled a backpack to bursting and set off. 3 months later, after struggling through wilderness and crossing 9 mountain ranges, Cheryl made it to the end. The journey had been physically and mentally hard for the inexperienced hiker. She had endured 100-degree temperatures, record snowfalls, and encountered bears and rattlesnakes. The giant backpack was so heavy that she called it Monster. But the journey had done what she wanted. It had healed her. Cheryl wrote a book about her journey, and this in turn inspired an amazing film called Wild, starring Reese Witherspoon as Cheryl. It shows the healing power of her journey in the wild.
Okay, you have heard the 4 stories. Now for your homework, let's do exercises number 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And we'll get back to you soon. Bye.